On Friday the 9th of June, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations on the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts. A total of 27 combat engagements occurred between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 9th of June. Details: According to the most up-to-date information, Russian occupation forces deployed Iranian-made Shahed attack drones and Kh-101, Kh-555 air-to-surface cruise missiles to carry out an attack on military and critical infrastructure facilities in Ukraine between 0000 and 4:20 on the 9th of June. Ukrainian Air Force Air Defense Forces and Systems, in cooperation with air defense units within other components of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, destroyed 4 out of 7 Kh-101, Kh-555 cruise missiles, 4 out of 10 Shahed-136 131st and Lancet attack drones, and 4 Orlan 10 and Supercam operational and tactical UAVs. Over the course of the day, Russian forces conducted 8 missile strikes on civilian houses in the city of Zhytomyr, Zhytomyr Oblast, and on the outskirts of Kharkiv. Russian forces also conducted 58 airstrikes and deployed multiple launch rocket systems (MLRS) to conduct 31 attacks on positions of Ukrainian troops and on civilian settlements. Several civilians were injured or killed, and a number of private residential houses, a hospital, and other civilian infrastructure facilities sustained damage. There is an ongoing threat of Russian missile and airstrikes across the territory of Ukraine. Russia continues to focus its main efforts on establishing full control over Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts. A total of 27 combat engagements occurred between Russian and Ukrainian forces over the course of the day. Details: The operational situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remains much the same as before. There is no evidence that Russia is forming offensive units there. Units of Russian forces are undergoing training on training grounds in the Republic of Belarus. On the Severshchina and Slobozhanshchina fronts, Russia continues to maintain its forces in areas near the Russian-Ukrainian border, and is deploying units of territorial forces to reinforce its border defense. Over the course of today, Russian forces deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Karpovichy, Leonivka and Remyak Chernihiv Oblast, Khlebarav, Sorokin, Iskryskivshchina, Unikivka, Myropilya, Slavhorod and Vlika Pisarivka, Sumy Oblast, and over 20 civilian settlements in Kharkiv Oblast, including Basov, Veterinarn, Vysoka Yarua, Izbitsky, Verkhnya Pisarivka, Hatish, Vovchansk, Bochkov, Budarki and Zemlyanki. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Vorokna, Mashutivka, Lyman Pershi, Kyslivka, Tebevka and Berestov Kharkiv Oblast, and Novoselivsky, Luhansk Oblast. On the Lyman front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near Bilohorivka and conducted airstrikes on Nevsky, Luhansk Oblast, and Yampolivka, Dronivka, Seversk and Spern, Donetsk Oblast. They shelled Nevsky and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Torsky, Dubrova, Verkhnekamiansk, Spern and Rozdolivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Bakhmut front, Russian forces made attempts to advance on Bodanivka, but were unsuccessful. Russian aircraft struck areas in and around Bila Hora and Teresk, Donetsk Oblast. Zavanivka, Nikaiforivka, Vashukivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Novomarkov, Kalinivka, Ivanovsky, Bila Hora, Druzhba, Teresk, Pivnikny, Donetsk Oblast came under Russian fire. On the Avdiivka front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the vicinity of Severn and Nevelsky. They conducted airstrikes in the vicinity of Vasilivka and Pervomaysk, and shelled Novodonetsky, Berdichi, Avdiivka, Vodian, Nevelsky and Pervomaysk, Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukraine's defense forces repelled all Russian assaults near the city of Marinka, inflicting losses on Russian forces. Still, Russian troops shelled areas in and around Hyorhivka, Marinka, Ostrivsky, Kurakov, Dakhny, Pobeda, Novomikhailivka and Katerinivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian forces conducted airstrikes in the vicinity of Vlika Novosilka and Blahodatna, Donetsk Oblast, and shelled Vuhledar, Shakhtarsk, Novokranka, Zolotaniva and Neskuchny, Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces are on the defensive on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts. They conducted airstrikes in the vicinity of Novosilka, Donetsk Oblast, and Olhaivsky, Huliaipol and Stepok, Zaporizhia Oblast. Russian troops also shelled over 30 civilian settlements on these fronts, including Berlatsky, Novosilka, Zelin Pol, Novopil and Temirivka, Donetsk Oblast, Olhaivsky, Huliaipol, Zaliznikny, Bilahiria and Kamiansk, Zaporizhia Oblast, and the city of Kherson, Kherson Oblast. Around 90 military personnel deserted the Russian army, choosing to abandon their positions in Avdiivka, Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian aircraft carried out 16 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel were concentrated, and 2 on Russian anti-aircraft missile systems. Units of Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 4 Russian command posts, 6 clusters of Russian military personnel and equipment, 3 ammunition storage systems and 5 field artillery units. The General Staff of Ukraine's Armed Forces reported on June 9 that Russia has lost 213,770 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion in February 2022, with an estimated 1,010 casualties on June 8. Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 10 Russian UAVs during past day, General Staff report. Ukrainian defenders destroyed 6 attack and 4 reconnaissance UAVs of various types over the course of the 8th of June. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of the 9th of June on 6 o'clock. Quote, enemy forces continue to focus their main efforts on the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts, where heavy fighting is ongoing. During the past 24 hours, 43 combat engagements took place on these fronts. Details. Over the past 24 hours, Russian forces launched 7 missile attacks, 2 of which hit the peaceful city of Lyman, Cherkasy Oblast, and 43 airstrikes. In addition, they conducted 79 attacks from multiple launch rocket systems (MLRS) on the positions of our troops and settlements. There are casualties among civilians. On the Severshina and Slobozhanshina fronts, Russia continues to maintain its forces in areas near the Russian-Ukrainian border and is deploying units of territorial forces to reinforce its border defense. During the past day, Russian forces conducted airstrikes on the settlements of Myropilya, Sin and Severinivka in Sumy Oblast. They deployed mortars and artillery to attack the settlements of Serodina Buda, Atinsk, Bezsalivka, Myropilya, Rybovsky, Vlika Pisarivka and Ponomarenki in Sumy Oblast, as well as Krasny, Morokovets, Lukyantsy, Starykha, Hatish, Vovchansk, Chuvunivka in Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces conducted an airstrike near Kyslivka. They deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Kamyanka, Krasny Persh, Novomlinsk, Kutkivka, Vorokna, Kyslivka, Tbevka and Berestov in Kharkiv Oblast and Novosilivsky in Luhansk Oblast. On the Lyman front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near Vesel in Donetsk Oblast. Makivka, Nevsky and Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast and Verkhnekamiansk, Torsky, Spern and Rozdalivka in Donetsk Oblast came under artillery fire.